YouTube, what's good, man? It's your boy Dat520, aka Mario. Hey, we back with an Eddie Van Halen video, but it's not what you guys think. Shout out to what's this channel? PMTVUK. Yo, those of you that play guitar, you know who this is. He coming with everything. He coming with the amps to buy. He reviewing guitars. He just doing the whole thing. I mean, he talked me into buying the newest amp that I have, the Boss Katana, the Mark II. He's like built-in reverb, built-in phaser, flanger, da 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 da. Make it sound like a tube amp. Make it sound like this, da da. And it really does. So, but hey, he just put out this video. It's called 10 Awesome Facts About Eddie Van Halen's Frankenstrat That You Probably Didn't Know. So hey, without further ado, we're gonna get into this. Long live the GOAT EVH. Let's go. I'm going deaf. There we go. This is loud.
Hey folks, Dagan here from PMTVUK, and today I have the absolute pleasure of sharing with you 10 awesome facts that you probably didn't know about Edward Van Halen's famous Frankenstrat. In my humble opinion, the greatest, the most iconic,
the GOAT,
the most recognizable, and the most influential.
Hey, it's so hard for me because I love this guitar right here. This 5150. This right when I seen Eddie play and I seen this guitar, I was like, I need that guitar. I need it. And then when I got into like later Van Halen, and then I seen this one, I was like, oh man, that's dope. Like, look, I don't know if you guys can see this. Man, my phone's charging. This is my wallpaper. I don't know if you guys can see this. I mean, come on. And then look it. You open the phone. You go to the widgets right here. I mean, how much more do I gotta say that I'm an Eddie Van Halen fan? I mean, come on, man. The guy was a fucking genius. If you play guitar, you just admire what he did. I mean, he paved the way. He literally took the blocks that he was given and threw them blocks away and said, you know what? I'm making my own blocks. But hey, that's Eddie Van Halen for you, though. But let's go, though.
Electric guitar of all time. That's a very bold statement, I know. The pot of people like that and builders like that is pretty damn big. People like Les Paul constantly inspiring and innovating this instrument that we all know and love to parts unknown until Edward came along. It was something extremely special. People didn't play guitar the same way at all after Edward Van Halen. They certainly didn't make guitars the same way, because this thing, no one had seen something like this before, minus the stripes and all that. Cross-pollinating a Gibson's tonality, that thick Gibson tone, with the playability and features and attributes of a Strat with the whammy bar and stuff. It was something very special. Eddie is my absolute guitar hero, and it's going to be a lot of fun talking about this guitar in today's video.
Little Dreamer.
So, with that, the history of this guitar is pretty damn intense. A lot of it is hearsay. A lot of it is contradicted again and again and again in the past. So I'm going by what I know from my reputable sources, because I'm in deep with this guitar now. The lore of this guitar is ingrained in my brain. Personally, this one, I made this Frankenstrat when I was 16 years old. 14 years ago. Jeez. So much so, even the selector switch in the middle is the PAC 222.
I like those holders too.
Which is the same model that Edward Van Halen had, and the 1971 quarter and stuff. Cost me a lot more than 25 cents. But yeah, I'm in deep with this guitar. So if I get anything wrong, because there's a lot of back and forth, anything wrong, you want to expand on anything that I talk about in this video, or change anything, please comment down below and share the love, because there's so much about this guitar, so much more than 7 awesome facts. I'll be here all day. That's enough rambling though. I'll be rocking the 78 Striped Series Eruption and the Frankie in this video. If you want more information on them, they're linked in the description box down below, so you can check it out at pmtonline.co.uk.
Guitars are
Let's
like
get into the facts with the first one.
$2,500, $3,000
There's some modern
each.
information which came out recently, which is quite interesting. And that is the fact that the guitar itself was a reject. The body, at least. The body was a factory reject when Ed got the parts to build the guitar, because he didn't buy it. If you didn't know, he didn't buy it off the shelf. He bought the parts and crafted the guitar himself. That's kind of one of the parts that make it so interesting. So he bought a Northern Ash body that had a knot in it for $50 and a maple neck, which had the big CBS 70s headstock, as opposed to the smaller one that we're all familiar with right now. Let's get into that in a bit. The whole lot for $130 from Wayne Charvel and Lynn Ellsworth, who sold boogie body parts. So you could buy the parts and stuff, boogie bodies, and make your own guitar essentially. And that's just what Ed did. But there was a little knot down the bottom right here, so he got it at a discount. So technically, that's a part that he couldn't build a guitar with. So he's Wayne and that couldn't build a guitar with. So it was a reject, it was a factory reject. And that guitar came on to be the most popular guitar in my eyes of music history, which is cracking. However, the one little caveat I want to add to this, which is really interesting, is that Schecter...
Yeah, because I remember Eddie saying that in an interview. He's like, yeah, I got the body, and they're like, oh, you don't, those are seconds. And he said, oh, like, those are next to be made. He's like, no, those got a knot in the wood, like, it's messed up right here, like, they don't want it. He's like, all right, I'll take that. And then, like, that just proves to you, like, you don't need the best gear. Like, you don't need the best. Like, you really don't need the best. If you can make that thing talk, that's all you need. That's really all you need. And hey, Eddie made that motherfucker talk. But let's go though.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying this so far.
From reputable sources, made the boogie body parts for Wayne Charvel and that. So does that mean the Frankenstrat is a Schecter? That's a fun little nugget of information to throw in right there. So Schecter made the parts of boogie bodies in which Wayne Charvel of Charvel and Jackson sold. What do you think of that? That's awfully interesting. Do you know otherwise? Again, comment down below. So the fact that the body was a factory second might shock some people. It might also shock you to know that the Frankenstrat wasn't always striped. So when he obviously put everything together, put the pickup in, the neck, the body, the choosers, strung it up.
I've never seen that picture.
In between that, he didn't paint it with the black and white stripes. It was natural wood for a little bit. It was black. Obviously, it was black before he put the tape over it, then painted it white. Again, some people think this is electrical tape. It's not. He did use
Look at that.
Electrical tape, painted it white. Again, some people...
You see that big-ass humbucker in there. And then the other one had 2 volume notes, so he must have did all this later.
People think this is electrical tape. It's not. He did use electrical tape to put the stripes on, but masking tape and duct tape and all that. That's why some of the edges are frayed, because he used duct tape with the rough edges and stuff. But before all that, when he Frankensteined the Fender and the Gibson together, it wasn't immediately painted. So there was a time where the Frankenstrat was just a Strat with a single humbucker in. There's tons of pictures of this online as well, so have a bit of fun, have a bit of Google, and find some old school pictures of Eddie.
I've never seen those pictures.
His Ibanez Destroyer before he turned it into the Shark and stuff, from way back in the day, before Van Halen 1, when the Frankenstrat was stripeless. Next up, we have something that a lot of Van Halen fans will already know, but I get asked this question a lot online, and I did say at the start, some of these are going to be obvious, and some of them are going to be not so obvious, and this is the fact that this guitar, the black and white striped original Frankenstrat from the cover of Van Halen 1, is the same as the red, white and black one we're all familiar with in his later career before the 5150 came about. So the original design...
And that's one thing that I never knew. Like, I thought these were 2 different guitars, and that he just, I don't know why, but it didn't click. That I was like, oh, he, like, the black and white one he probably gave to somebody. Because I used to listen to, I listened to this podcast. Oh, what the hell is that dude's name? I don't know his name. But he had like people on there. He's like, yeah, he's like, if like a band like opened up for them, like Eddie would give you a guitar. Like he would be like, hey man, really appreciate you. Like here's a gift. Here's a gift, token of my appreciation. And then one of the guys said he got one of the. I think one of the Kramers that he had, and he just gave it to him. He's like, hey, I appreciate you. I'm like, damn, I was like, this dude was just giving out guitars. I'm like, but those guitars right now, whew. Yeah, y'all seen what that Hot for Teacher one sold for? $4 million. Oh my God. But back to this. I never knew it was that. And then as I started looking at it, and then you see like on the Frankenstein, you see all the little holes where the pick guard wasn't, and then everything started to match up, and then the one volume knob. So like when he did it, I'm guessing he must have just cut all this and then just left this part right here. So like cut this and then take all this out, and then just left that, put the Floyd on, put all the locking stuff and all that, and then gave it a paint job and then chiseled all this crap out. But man, what a God fucking Eddie, man.
Had the pick guard, had the single pickup and the volume, regular Fender synchronized tremolo from Ed's 61 Strat, I believe. And the way the story goes, he retired this guitar in this incarnation because he thinks it was getting overused a little bit, and he started using the Bumblebee, the black with the yellow stripes that we all know from Van Halen 2. He didn't really get on with that guitar, and he noticed other people had started putting stripes on their guitar as well to kind of copy him because the idea is really cool. So he thought, I want to put even more stripes on this, cover it in tape, and put some red Schwinn bicycle paint all over this guitar. Have some crazy fun with the pickguard. Put a dummy neck pickup in. I'm going to talk about this in a second, and yeah, that's how this guitar was born. It's the same guitar as that, just upgraded, let's say. Changed even more, Frankenstein even more to the one we all know and love and associate with Ed. Not that we don't with this, but this one is something quite special, isn't it? Now I will keep reiterating in this video just how many times parts of the Frankenstrat had changed over the years. It had so many necks on it, so many different control plates and controls. The Frankenstrat was just Frankenstein. And the pickups are a main part of that. Everyone knows the humbucker and the bridge changed tons of times, and the dummy single coil in the neck, which I believe you can activate on this EVH gear Frankie guitar if you want to. But did you know that it once had a Telecaster pickup in it? A Telecaster bridge pickup.
What the
Not
hell?
in the bridge though. In the middle. Everyone knows this guitar for famously having a...
Dude, look at that thing. That thing looks like it's been through hell, ran over, forgotten, thrown off the bus, hitting up against the amp. I mean, hey, if it works, it works. But look at that. I have in mind. I have two humbuckers in the Telly that I have. But man, just look at that thing. That's crazy.
A pickup selector switch from a Strat in the middle position where you would normally have a middle pickup. But if you look closely, the route for the middle pickup is ridiculous. It's been carved in such a peculiar way, just like the bridge. Notice the little bridge like routing right here to fit the humbucker in. It's been hacked and chiseled to bits to fit this thing in. If you notice the size of that middle pickup, it's not to fit the selector switch, it's actually to fit, as you can see from the picture, a Telecaster bridge pickup. It'll fit perfectly in. I've seen a few people modify their own Frankenstrats they've made, and even the EVH gear Frankies, for this configuration of Frankenstrat. I think it's awesome, but yeah, I bet you didn't know the middle pickup on the Frankenstrat was at one point a Telecaster bridge pickup.
Never knew that.
Next up, another one for the guys and gals just getting into the world of Van Halen and these fantastic guitars and the history with them, and that is that the guitar only has one volume control, but it's a tone control pot. So it doesn't say volume on it like the traditional Strat volume. You actually took one of the tone controls and put it on the volume control. So it doesn't work as a tone control, it is just a volume. But it says tone. And I don't know if the case was he didn't have the volume, so he just picked up a pot that said tone and put it on, and that became a thing. But the law after that was the fact that Ed was like, yeah, it's a volume control, but that's where the tone comes from, isn't it? You turn it up and you get the tone. So it's a tone control. Next up we have something a little more niche. So I've strapped on my very own Frankenstrat, as opposed to the EVH gear Frankie, which is still an absolutely astounding guitar. It plays fantastic, it looks the part, and it sounds absolutely killer. However, it is missing a couple of little unique attributes, which make the Frankenstrat the Frankenstrat. The bulk of it is there.
The quarter.
Obviously, you can add all these yourself if you want, but out the box, it doesn't feature some certain things. Like the reflectors. On the back, the famous truck stop reflectors that Eddie used to shine into the crowd, the splash of blue paint on the back, the little bit of tape, the Floyd Rose tension bar at an angle up there. But what I'm going to talk about in this little nugget of information, the 1971 quarter, which you'll find just to the back left-hand side of the Floyd Rose. So why on earth would you screw a coin to the front of your guitar?
Because you had the
general
Floyd Rose.
consensus out there all believe in one theory, one main theory we all agree on, and everyone's really happy about it. However, there's lots of other theories about why this is a thing. I'm going to talk about them, a couple of them at least, in this little section of the video. You can all fight amongst yourselves in the comments about which one's actually correct. The main theory is the fact that when he moved up from the traditional Fender synchronized tremolo from his 61,
that's what I heard.
First incarnation of the FrankenStrat.
Something about the Floyd Rose.
The first Floyd Rose, which looked a lot different to the Floyd Rose we all know today. I'm going to talk about this more later in this video for a different little fun fact. When you have the 6-point trem, there's 6 screws pushing that Fender trem to the body, so it's nice and flat. When you move up to how a Floyd Rose works, which is on a knife edge, so there's 2 posts, which is how Floyd Roses still work to this day, and a knife edge going back and forth, that does raise the bridge up ever so slightly. So with raising the bridge up, there was a little bit of a gap under where the Floyd is meeting the body. And with it being a little gap, this allows you to pull up on the bar as well, raising it up ever so slightly in pitch. You got to remember, back in the day as well, this was before the recessed trem. This is before there was a big chunk out of the body, like we all know today. You can like pull up loads in pitch on Floyd Roses. This wasn't a thing on the first Floyd Rose. This was literally the first one, and you could raise it up ever so slightly, like literally 2 millimeters. Now, when it comes to the quarter, this is where it kind of gets a bit foggy. The first one had 1 screw in, which allowed Ed to either have it away from under the tremolo or push underneath. So this gave him the ability to pull up ever so slightly again, ever so slightly if you wanted to, or you could move it under, spin it under, and kind of block it almost. Which is weird though, because it was just on the treble side, on the bass side, sorry, and surely you'd be able to pull up a little bit on the treble side as well, but I don't know how that works. So that was one of the main things. So you could either go up or keep it locked down. The reasons in which you want to keep it locked down
I see what he means. I see what he
string,
means.
that would then throw the balance off with the string tension and the spring tension of the Floyd Rose, making it go up and pitch and go out of tune. Same if you want to down tune it, if you want to drop D it or something, that would then throw off the tension, making the rest of the strings out of tune because the whole bar would shift. The whole tremolo would shift, sorry. Tremolo itself, the unit itself, would shift up, knocking the guitar up in pitch and therefore out of tune. This was a case on the first one, the first Floyd Rose ever fitted. Again, talk about them more in a second. The FRT.
I want to hear what this thing sounds like.
I believe it went away for the FRT2, FRT4, sorry. And Ed tried to prise the quarter off and left like a screw, snapped one of the screws, left a bit of metal in the top of the body. So drilled more holes in it and then put it back on for the whale tail Floyd Rose, which is one of the later ones, before just screwing it onto the body like it is as we know today. Now, a lot of people do say as well that it's in a different space to where it used to be from all the photos back in the days of the first incarnations of the Floyd. That's not the case. The reason it looks like it's in a different place because it is screwed down to the body with 2 screws now, as opposed to being able to move it. That's because when Ed first put the posts in for the Floyd Rose, they weren't level and the guitar wasn't really insulated right and it was a bit off. This got fixed, it got shimmed by Tom Anderson, and therefore the Floyd itself moved, making...
Yeah, yo, my bad I'm not talking or pausing it or nothing like that. But I'm really intrigued into this because I'm like, dude, this guy did his goddamn research on this. He did his research, but I understand what he means by this because, I mean, the first Floyd Rose, he probably pulling it too much or anything that you probably mess up the locks, and then wow, man, I don't even know what this thing's called right here. The little bridge thing, and then knock it all out of tune. So he put that quarter into there so he could get, so like when he puts it back, he just it's normal. So instead of having that, so to where it sits down more, it just sits at that perfect height. I get what he's saying, but like I said, man, he did his research on this, man. Shout out to you.
It looked like the quarter moved, but that didn't move. The Floyd Rose itself moved to make it intonate correctly by Tom Anderson. There's so many words in this. So hopefully you're keeping up. If not, there's documents and documents and videos online about this one specific subject. The other theory that I find quite interesting was from a Johnny Bean interview. Now, Johnny Bean is like a historian of the FrankenStrat and everything Edward Van Halen. He's a legend on Instagram, on YouTube, EVH Gear Live. The guy knows his stuff, and he was interviewing a chap who was explaining about the quarter, the fact that Ed had all of his Floyd Roses just all the way back, as you'd expect, as far back as you could go, with the strings in the back, kind of. And the reason why he flipped this quarter under the back of the Floyd is to adjust the actual height of the saddles for when he was putting different necks on the guitar, because obviously the necks itself, the heel, can be different thicknesses sometimes, and the rate he went through necks, nothing kind of matched up. So spinning the quarter underneath any variation of the Floyd back in the day literally raised the height of the Floyd. I don't know why you do that instead of just raising the posts or changing it like that, to therefore make the strings not rattle on the fingerboard. That's an interesting theory. Again, I don't know why it's just on the bass side and why it's not on the treble side.
A lot of theories on this little quarter.
Two videos of Ed halfway through a solo from back in the day, putting the quarter under and then taking it back out halfway through during a song. Don't know why that's a thing, but yeah, those are some theories. Some of the most prominent theories. Again, a very wordy section, this, for what is just a 25-cent coin on a piece of wood. But yeah, comment down below what you think. Next up, something cool that didn't really stick around for a long time, but people kind of recreate these days in their own versions of the FRANKENSTRAT, and that is the fact that you cut the pickguard out of a record, a vinyl record. The old school vinyl records and stuff. You can see it in some pictures with Ed. You can see the groove marks of the vinyl record reflecting off the light onto the stage. This is you can obviously buy pickguards. And for the original Eruption, I believe he did buy a blank and then cut around it very crudely. The original one wasn't vinyl, but he had used vinyls later on and all that kind of stuff. It's quite an interesting way of doing it, and when you see it done these days, it's really bloody cool. So the best way to do it is obviously just, if you want to replace what's on the guitar already, get the vinyl, trace around it, get your pickguard, trace around it on the vinyl, and then cut it out. I don't want to say do it to an old Van Halen record, but it'll look really cool. So don't cut up an old Van Halen record unless the record's broke, it's scratched and it's all warped and stuff. Then you can cut around it and give yourself a cool pickguard, but don't ruin it.
Don't mess up the record.
But yeah, Ed would occasionally, back in the day, when he didn't have a pickguard to hand, made his own pickguards from black vinyl records. Some of them were absolutely tiny as well, like only big enough to fit this, and you could see all the electronics inside and all that kind of jazz before he settled on this pickguard on the FRANKENSTRAT. It's really interesting. Next up, we'll be chatting about how and why Eddie slanted the bridge pickup of the FRANKENSTRAT, because it's iconic now, and lots of other guitars do this kind of thing. Like, first thing comes to mind is Billy Joe Armstrong's Blue Strat and stuff. Slanted the pickup ever so slightly. Now, this wasn't just for aesthetics, even though it does look proper cool, but that's because when he first made the guitar, like I said at the start, he cross-pollinated the Gibson tonality, a big, thick, humbucking sound, into the playability and feature set of a Stratocaster, because that's what he enjoyed. But with the Strat tremolos, the string spacing, so the spaces between the strings out the bridge where the string goes over, was different to your Gibson Tunematic tailpiece. Different to that, so the pole pieces, the little screws and whatnot, the lugs of the pickup, didn't match up with the strings. So to counter that, to at least get one to sit under the strings, Ed slanted the pickup, which he got out of an old, I don't think it was a 59.
You see how genius this dude is? He was like, oh man, I got this. He's like, I'm guessing it has to be that high string. It has to be that high string. That high E. Cause yeah, you're playing, and then because that's what I had to do on my telly. I lowered the bridge, because like every time I would play, like the string would get caught. So I was like, man, I'm gonna lower this. And I've never had that problem again. And then him slanting it gave him that little extra space, so where that string probably didn't get caught under. Can you see what look at that. Genius! Genius, I tell you! Man.
Something around that era. ES335. He wax potted it as well, because it wasn't wax potted, and he thought he'd wax pot it to reduce microphonics, which was a great idea at the time. He wasn't the first to do that, but he was one of the first. I don't know whether he consciously knew that or just thought it was a good idea. Very good idea. But yeah, took the pickup from this old 50s ES335, a PAF, put it in. It didn't match with the strings, slanted it, screwed it to the body, and yeah, that pickup didn't stay in forever. The pickup changed just as much as the bloody neck, and as much as Edward's socks, I presume, because everything was changed on this guitar all the time. But yeah, that's the reason the pickup was slanted, so the pole pieces of the Gibson spaced humbucker fit under the string spacing of the Fender style bridge. Next up, sticking with the OG white and black FRANKENSTRAT, I love this little feature on this guitar on the new Striped Series 78 Eruption, and that is the fact that the EVH logo on the biggest
Oh,
70
used to
CBS
have
headstock is gold.
Don't even. He used to have a Gibson sticker on there. Come on, I know it. Come on, look at that, and it says right here, originally had a Gibson logo.
Why on earth would you make it gold? It doesn't stand out. It doesn't necessarily fit the aesthetic of the guitar. That's there in gold because, again, talking about cross-pollinating Gibson and Fender, Eddie put a gold Gibson logo on the original Frankenstrat. Back when this was a real thing in the 70s, before it was red and everything, he had a gold Gibson logo on a Fender headstock to kind of really give it the fact that he was trying to blend these two guitars and make something special. So to honor that, they put the gold EVH logo, which I think is just a wonderful little touch that people don't really realize.
And
that's why that's gold.
And I like how they did it. How they did it faded too, like that Gibson one. Yeah, man.
That's why it's there. Bravo EVH.
People at EVH know it's.
But certainly not least.
I'm gonna edit the ads out. Don't even worry about it.
Wonderful Floyd Rose. The Floyd Rose is just synonymous and iconic with Ed on the Frankenstrat or the later Kramer 5150. It's just so integral to that sound and the sound that helped change music as we know it. But the little fact I want to add in is the fact that the Floyd Rose never looked like this originally. It kind of looked similar to a Strat bridge, as you can probably see from the picture up there, to a Strat bridge without the fine tuners. So it clamped the strings in and didn't get them through the body. Ed and Floyd Rose were very close, they were good mates, and Ed would have had the first ever Floyd Rose system when it looked like that. So the first ever Floyd Rose in that incarnation went on the Frankenstrat. I believe Brad Gillis got the second and third, but Ed got the first. Story doesn't end there as well. So it locked up, Ed hammers the bar, he did with the regular Strat bridge as well back in the day, and the things he used to do to keep that thing in tune deserves a whole other video in itself. But yeah, the guitar would slip out of tune every now and then, and Ed was very competent in itself.
And when he said that,
and the things he used to do to keep that thing in tune deserves a whole other video.
When he's talking about that, I've heard this story too about the black and white, how he used to keep it in tune. So like he said, when he would put new strings on it, he would hold the ball end and tighten it, and every time he tightened it, he would move it, and then he's like, say like that the lowest string like went out of tune. He was like, I would just hit the tremolo bar real quick, like, and then it would go perfectly back into tune. And he's like, and that's when I figured out, like, oh, if I move the ball, if I move this, and then something, he's right. It's a long explanation, but if you're an EVH fan, you know that. And he just hit that tremolo bar back real quick, and then you're back in tune. Like, man, fucking genius, bro. This is crazy.
In itself. But yeah, the guitar would slip out of tune every now and then, and Ed was very competent on the old violin. And violins have these little tuning pegs down the bottom, as well as at the headstock of the violin, where you can tune it ever so finely. Little fine tuners. And he thought, let's implement this on the Floyd Rose system, so it clamps in, and you can also fine tune it once you clamp down at the nut to keep everything in tune. When you clamp that down, things go a little bit sharp. Fine-tune it with that. So Eddie Van Halen is the reason the Floyd Rose has the fine tuners. He didn't only pioneer the way in which you can use it and how crazy you can get it to sound, but also how it was made itself. It wasn't until later in the 80s where I believe it was Steve Vai cut a big chunk out and then went up in pitch with the Floyd Rose, but Ed was just more than happy going down the way. And the dude just kept innovating all the way through the years when he retired the Frankenstrat, when it was onto the Kramer 5150 later on. This is going to be another video completely. He had the little tray table on the back, which helped him prop the guitar up on his belly, then he could play it like a piano. Yep. The dude was an absolute menace to the guitar world because you thought you knew everything, and then Eddie did something and it was just absolutely crazy. We all love and miss Ed Van Halen. It's just fantastic. I think that's the end of this video. I don't really know how to end it in not a sorry way. Let's just all celebrate by playing Eruption as loud as we can after this video. If you want to expand on anything that I spoke about, please comment down below. Add your own little fun Eddie Van Halen fact, or change any of mine if I've got any little parts wrong. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to PMTVUK here on YouTube. All the guitars are listed in the description box down below, besides my own one. I'm keeping that one. We are playing music today on social media pages. I've been Dagan. It's been a pleasure. I'll see you next time.
Whew. All right. Yo, shout out to PMTVUK, man. Yo, I love this guy because he's gonna give it to you raw. Like somebody comes out with the amp and he was like, if he's like, if you're not in the market for this, he's like, don't get it. He's like, and then he'll say everything. He's like, yeah, like it has this, has that. He's like, if you're looking for this, don't get this. Like he's gonna give it to you raw, and that's what I like about him. And when he plays, he shreds. Cause most of these guys on here, they talk about an amp and they can't even play a one chord, and I'm like, oh my god, okay, I'm not listening to this guy. Skip this guy. But I love this guy, man, because just his dedication to like EVH and everything, how detailed he goes into it and everything. But man, but speaking on the video, man, I love this video. All the facts and everything. Like I said, he really went and did his research on everything, and I really love that. And I learned some stuff in here that I didn't know. Man, about how the Frankenstrat used to have a Telecaster pickup. Like, what the heck? He used to make the pick guard out of a vinyl. Like, what? But, man, shout out to EVH. Long live the GOAT. Long live the king. I mean, look at that. I got it. I got the pick right here. I mean, come on, man. What? There's nothing I gotta say. You guys know. You guys know. I'm not even gonna say anything. The only thing I'm gonna say is, if you enjoyed that video, hit the sub button, leave a like, comment what we should do next. I'm Mario, aka Datway520. I am gone. Long live the GOAT. Peace.